McLaren arrives at the final Grand Prix of the year with the whole world staring into the papaya garage as if it were a laboratory about to explode. Anyone watching Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri from a distance might think everything is light, cheerful, we're all a team atmosphere. It isn't. Because behind the curtain, the pressure is at its limit. Rumors have split fan bases across 2 continents, and even an entire parliament has started questioning whether McLaren actually treats its drivers equally. And while all of this was happening, Max Verstappen just stood there, like a silent predator watching his victims fight each other before the final attack. Today we return to a point that has been bothering McLaren for months, the suspicion that the team, even without admitting it, has a favorite. And now, as the championship reaches its final chapter, that suspicion finally received an official, clear, public, and explosive statement. Zak Brown confirmed he will use team orders. He admitted that if the time comes, one driver will have to sacrifice his own title so the other can become champion. And this is where the question shaking the entire Formula One community is born. Who will be sacrificed? And worse, can McLaren's internal environment survive that choice without completely breaking apart? McLaren could leave Abu Dhabi as world champions, but they could also leave completely broken from the inside. Norris leads the championship by 12 points. Piastri is only 4 points behind Verstappen. All of them still have a mathematical chance. But when the team principal himself says that it would be crazy not to use team orders, it becomes clear that someone will have to help. Someone will have to step aside. Someone will have to die on the beach. The most intense part of all this is that the last few weeks only fueled the distrust. The strategic mistake in Qatar, which cost Piastri a practically guaranteed victory, became ammunition for those accusing McLaren of favoring Norris. The situation gained so much strength that Piastri's name reached the Australian Parliament. A driver becoming a political topic? That's the level of pressure hanging over Abu Dhabi. And now we've reached the final point. For McLaren to become champions, one of the two will have to give up the dream of a lifetime. And the world wants to know how they're dealing with this behind the scenes. Zak Brown tried to avoid this conversation the entire year. He said they would follow the papaya rules, that both drivers would have total equality until the end. But just look at the math of the last race to understand why that promise broke. Norris only needs a podium. Verstappen needs to win and hope for chaos. Piastri needs a small miracle. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. And it's exactly in that detail that the atmosphere began to sour. In recent days, rumors have invaded the paddock, social media, and newsrooms. A journalist claimed Piastri was forbidden from speaking to the Australian press. Another article suggested the team was holding him back so he wouldn't interfere with the Brits' path. Some even claimed the strategic mistake in Qatar wasn't an accident, but the first sign of preference. None of this has concrete proof, but only a spark is needed to ignite the narrative. When Piastri was asked about it, he answered diplomatically. Said everything is fine, that there is no favoritism. But his words didn't erase the feeling that he's the last in line inside the team. Norris, on the other hand, said he wouldn't ask for help, but would love to receive it. A silent request, almost childish, but extremely clear. Now imagine this. The safety car comes out, Verstappen leads, Piastri is second and Norris is fourth. Do you really believe McLaren won't order a position swap? This is what is starting to divide the team internally. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Here you always get the behind the scenes without filters, without team propaganda, and without fanboy nonsense. Subscribe to follow everything that is really happening in Formula One, especially before everyone starts repeating the official headlines like robots. The answer is simple and direct. Yes, McLaren will sacrifice one driver if necessary. And Zak Brown said it clearly. No interpretation. No rumor. It's official. It would be crazy not to do it, he said. If one of them is no longer in contention, we'll act. And who is the target of that statement? By the math, by the momentum, by the public narrative, it's Piastri. The Australian is respected internally, but he reaches the last GP at an obvious disadvantage. The team has also referenced previous situations where he and Norris obeyed team orders, such as in Qatar and Brazil, which sets precedent. What truly decides everything is the race situation. McLaren isn't worried about losing P2 or P3. They're worried about losing the championship to Verstappen. Inside the team, that has become an obsession. Norris has a real shot. He's the favorite. Piastri only has a remote chance. Verstappen is the common enemy. Brown made it clear, they won't allow a Piastri podium to cost Norris the title. That's the core point. The team has decided it's better to face criticism, controversy, and a possible internal fracture than lose the championship. This GP smells like rupture. The team hides it, minimizes it, smiles for the cameras. But no one fools the paddock. The tension is thick enough to slow down the air inside the garage. Engineers feel it in the way meetings take longer. Mechanics feel it in the way no one makes eye contact for more than a second. Reporters feel it in the way every comment now has two meanings. Piastri is under pressure from two fronts. On one side, the Australian expectation machine fans, journalists, politicians demanding that he prove he's not the number two. On the other, the growing perception that he is the expendable piece, the guy who will have to compromise so the bigger storyline can play out. Inside the McLaren bubble, the situation is even stranger. Some insiders say Piastri's body language has changed, he's more contained, more guarded, no longer the calm rookie who impressed everyone by treating chaos like background noise. Others whisper that certain engineers privately fear being associated with a losing strategy call if the team order backfires. Norris feels something completely different. The fear of becoming the eternal almost. A driver with talent for a title but cursed by timing, mistakes, or fate. Losing this championship would sting deeper than losing a victory because it would feed the narrative that he can't finish the job. And in the middle of all this, McLaren stands at a crossroads between two futures. One where they are champions and celebrated as the team that rebuilt itself from the ashes. And another where they implode in a psychological civil war worthy of Rosberg versus Hamilton or Vettel versus Webber. All it takes is one badly phrased team order. One radio message leaking at the wrong moment. One frustrated sigh from Piastri. One sarcastic remark from Norris. Abu Dhabi has the perfect ingredients to become McLaren's most emotionally explosive race since the days of Senna and Prost, and everyone in the paddock feels it like static electricity before a storm. If you've made it this far, subscribe. Not even McLaren's strategist is paying as much attention to this race as you are right now. Hit the button and stay with us to receive everything that is still going to leak from this story. The whole season led to this moment. Norris carries the dream of a lifetime, a chance to rewrite his entire career in a single Sunday. Piastri carries the expectations of a country that saw his name reach Parliament, an absurd but symbolic sign of how heavy the spotlight has become. McLaren carries the weight of years spent rebuilding its identity, reclaiming respect, fighting to re-enter the elite, and the terrifying possibility of throwing all of that away in one afternoon. And then there is Verstappen. The silent predator. The eternal opportunist. Waiting not for McLaren to fail technically, but for them to crumble emotionally. If there is chaos, he will walk through it without hesitation. The questions lingering in the air are knives pointed at the heart of the team. When the engineer says swap positions, will Piastri obey? If he obeys, does he stay the same? Does he swallow it quietly, or does a crack form that never closes? And if he doesn't obey, what does that mean for his 2026 season, for his relationships, for the future of the team? This GP is not just a sporting event. It's a confrontation between loyalty and ambition. Between personal glory and collective destiny. Between the version of McLaren the world believes in, and the one that may reveal itself under pressure. Abu Dhabi isn't the end of the story. It's the moment that determines which story they'll have to live with from now on.